day, everyone. Welcome back to our video lecture. This is still your teacher, Miss Mars, and it has been a while since I last recorded a video lecture. So my apology, it was just really busy. Plus, we already have the full-blown face-to-face classes. But anyway, this time I am going to record series of video lectures on the subject campus journalism. So I know you guys are very ready. Thus, without further ado, let's begin. This time, allow me to share my screen to everyone. Our first topic for our lecture on campus journalism is we will be talking about parts of a newspaper, and more or less we will focus on the front page, but at the same time, not just really the front page, but even some parts of the entire newspaper that we can buy from the bookstore or from the convenience store. So parts of the newspaper. Newspaper is very important. We basically use newspaper to know the current event or events, and at the same time, for us to be entertained as well. Now, let's try to take a look at the parts of the newspaper. So we have here, this is actually for the information of everybody. We already had our sessions in the previous weeks, and this is the continuation. This is additional parts of the newspaper that we are going to explore on today's video lecture. So let's start with folio. If you notice, a newspaper class actually has a page number, a date of publication, and the name of the newspaper, and usually they are written on top of the page. So though it doesn't mean that it can only be found really on top of the page, but sometimes we can find them in other pages as well. So it's not only the front page that we can find the folio, but in other pages as well. But you have to remember what it consists of because it has its page number. You can find the date of publication, the name of the newspaper. And if you notice here in the picture, I have here the red arrow. This is the word here, folio, and this is the red arrow. And here, this is our folio. This is the example given. It's the New York Times newspaper. And you can find here in this very narrow horizontal line. So 2 lines, so we can find the volume, the number. And then, of course, the page number can be also found. The date of publication or the date, we have here Tuesday, but I could not really read the date, no? And then the name of the newspaper as well. So it can be found usually on top of the page. So this is folio. And I believe you can look for the folio on the respective newspaper that you guys have, which I let you bring. Next, we have here a sample, no? This is now the sample folio for the newspaper, the Philippine Star. So this is folio here. We have the volume, the number, this is the date and the section, and of course we have the page number. All right. So now let's proceed. I know folio, it's easy, it's not even difficult to understand. No? Next, let's have the masthead. So the masthead, actually, it's the editorial box, and it contains the logo, the staff members' names, and the positions in the staff, the subscription rate, the publisher, and the other pertinent data about the newspaper or data. So it is a card containing an identifying word or words such as the newspaper's name or section. I'm referring to the logo. In this case, we have here, this is the editorial box, and it has the logo, the staff members' names, and the position in the staff. And some would have the subscription rate, and of course, the publisher. So this is an example of our masthead. You can look for the masthead also in the newspaper that you guys have. Next, let's have the editorial proper. The editorial proper, why is it called proper? Because this is actually a commentary that we can find in the first page of the opinion section, basically, and more or less, no, in the first page of the opinion section, it can always be found, and it's also where the editorial cartoon can be found. So it's a commentary written by any of the editors. So the writer of the editorial is one of the editors. So any of the editors of the whole paper or the campus paper, let's say, and the editor here, the one who wrote, would comment or give the opinion of the staff or the whole paper on various subjects. And it is actually the stand of the paper, that editorial proper. The editorial proper is the stand of the newspaper. Next is we have the editorial column. The editorial column is different. In this case, the editorial column does not really represent the comment or the stand, the opinion of the entire newspaper. No. But the editorial column, class, this is a personal opinion. And this personal opinion, this is written by the columnist himself or herself. Like, for example, this one, Flirting with Russia, Edgardo J. Angara. This is an example of an editorial column. And the purpose of the writer here could either attack, teach, entertain, or appeal depending upon his or her purpose. So this is just a personal opinion about a specific issue written by a person, no? And his opinion or her opinion does not represent the entire paper or publication. Next is the editorial cartoon. I believe editorial cartoon, it's not difficult for you guys because it's very easy to identify, and we can of course find this in the editorial section of our newspaper. So the editorial cartoon, it is a caricature emphasizing a simple point, and it is usually humorous, but it has a function. It may be numerous, but obviously you can find here the opinion, or if you're going to look at the caricature, you can find the opinion of the publication, and the editorial cartoon would always be put side by side with the editorial proper. It stands by itself, and it is not a complement of the editorial proper. Though it is just put side by side, usually put side by side, but here it is not a complement of the editorial proper. That means the editorial cartoon is standalone. So it can stand on its own, and we don't really need to read the editorial proper to understand the message of an editorial cartoon. But earlier I was saying that it would be side by side with the editorial proper. Is it because it is placed on top or very nearby the editorial proper? Next is editorial liner. So the editorial liner, it is actually a short statement or quoted saying which is placed at the end of an editorial column or editorial to drive home a message. So the editorial liner, this is short, short line, it is witty, and at the same time, it could be serious or light. So kumbaga, this is what you are going to leave to your readers, no? So we have here an example. For example, love is looking up to find comfort in mother's smile. It's running and kissing father's hands to deserve his package. It's thinking and dreaming about a love one day and night. It's doing things to please the other. It's answering and writing love letters on perfume paper. It's crying and brooding over careless words. It's rejoicing and walking on clouds on hearing sweet things, and it's loving happily day by day. Obviously, this is what the writer of the editorial here would want the reader to remember, no? Because it's a short statement or quoted saying placed at the end of an editorial column. So whoever writes this is something that you want the reader to remember and they can ponder on. So that's why we have the editorial liner. And obviously, the example here is very timely because by the time you guys will be assigned to watch this video lecture, it is Valentine's Day, February 14th. So the example here is very timely. And another example, why wait? So if we suddenly discovered the late Christopher Morley once observed that we had only 5 minutes left to say all we wanted to say, every telephone booth would be occupied by people trying to call up other people to stammer that they loved them. So why wait until the last 5 minutes? So these are things that is worthy of us as readers to ponder on, and obviously it could really be retained in our brain or in our mind. Now, we have here another part of the newspaper is we have the letter to the editor. The letter to the editor class, it is actually very simple to understand, meaning somebody sent a letter to the editor. Okay? A letter sent in by the reader rather. So again, a letter sent in by the reader giving his personal views on certain aspects. And we have here an example, no? This is under opinion, and we have here letters to the editor. Of course, we have, dear editors, I am Isaac and I am 11 years old, and I am writing to urge all Jewish kids in Nashville, ages 9 to 11, to join a program called PJ Our Way. So obviously, this is an example here, and I won't be reading from the first until the last word. So you can read on it, but you know already the meaning. It's very easy to understand that if for example, I am not part of the newspaper, so I am just a reader, and I wanted to give my personal views on certain topics or certain aspects, I am going to send a letter to the editor. And probably if lucky enough, because let's say there's a lot of people submitting, so if lucky enough, our letter could be published or included in the issue, no? Their specific issue. So this is it for our additional parts of the newspaper. To recap, we start with, of course, the folio, and you guys know what a folio is. Very easy to spot, right? And then we have here a masthead as well, this one, and the editorial proper. And we also have the editorial column, and I believe you know already the difference between editorial proper and editorial column. It's easy to understand. And of course, editorial cartoon, which is not really complementing the editorial proper because editorial cartoon can stand alone, though when they are placed in the newspaper section is that they are basically put side by side. Okay, but it doesn't mean you need to read the editorial proper before you can understand the editorial cartoon. Okay, the next we have editorial liner. So obviously class, I will just go back, no? Why the editorial cartoon is like really placed beside the editorial proper is because they are tackling more or less the same issue, right? But the one that is presented in the caricature does not mean that you really need to read what is in the editorial proper, because it could be that you have no time to read the editorial proper, and what you will do is just to look at or check the editorial cartoon, and you would have already ideas. And we have editorial liner, and of course, letter to the editor. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching and for taking the time to read or to watch or to view this video lecture. I hope you learn a thing or two from our discussion today. So I will see you on the next one. This is still your teacher, Miss Mars, saying everything will be okay, and let's just all be happy. Thank you, and God bless us all. Bye.